Hi and welcome to Heimler's History. This is a special episode in which we celebrate together a momentous milestone in this little family of ours, 10,000 subscribers. What? It's a magnificent thing we've done together. In order to properly celebrate, I got a song for you. And now that we're sufficiently jacked up, I would suggest that you go ahead and subscribe and join this family if you're not already. My goal is to help you with your AP history class. I want you to get an A in your class and a 5 on your exam in May. If that's something you're into, then come along. Alright, when the ticker rolled over to 10,000, I sent a message out to all you people asking if you had any questions that you'd want me to respond to, and here's what I got. Caitlin Carey asked, does your head get cold in the winter? Why? And I got 2 questions here about my high school experience with history. Number 1, Vargas asked, how did you do when you were in AP World History? And Olga Schneider asked, did you like history in high school? Was it always your favorite? And I find that very laughable because I never took an AP course in my life. I was at best a C-level student in high school. I didn't really like school all that much. I didn't even like learning until like college and graduate school. Final Flames asked, what is your least favorite time period in history and what might be your favorite time period? Okay. Least favorite, probably the medieval-ish area, because I don't naturally know a lot about it. I'm sure it would dazzle me if I knew more about it. Favorite is probably the founding era of the United States. I just love the battles over the Constitution. It's tasty. Lone Star asked, do you plan to extend this channel into other subjects, such as English or anything involving the humanities? I guess that would be up to y'all. What would you actually want to see? I do have this secret ambition to be an English teacher, but I was never able to do it. Deity of Everything Awesome asks, what is your take on why world history is so relevant to our lives? Well, in a nutshell, it's the same reason why any history is relevant to our lives. We live today in a global culture, and that means we need a global history to make sense out of what's going on today. And if we don't understand the context and the story and the narrative of where we came from in this particular culture, we're gonna make some pretty bad decisions. So I think it's incredibly important that we learn our global past. Harry Young asked, do you have any advice for AP government students? And the answer is yes, I do. And this advice is generalizable to all AP subjects. In order to do that, let me tell you a story. I mentioned before I was not a good student in high school. And the reason I was not a good student in high school is because I wasn't interested in it. I didn't do what they asked me to do, and when I came to class, I was mentally somewhere else. But when I got to college, my father-in-law gave me some very good advice. He said, you will get good grades if you do 2 things. Are you ready? Because here's the advice. It's fantastic advice. Go to class and do what they ask you to do. That was it. And guess what? When I started going to class and doing what they asked me to do, when I was mentally present in the class and I was doing the assignments on the days they asked, I was doing all the assignments, not trying to find shortcuts, I actually ended up getting good grades. Now I know this sounds too simple, but it really is true because we're always looking for shortcuts. How can I do more in less time? But the truth is, if you want to succeed, there is no shortcut. Stay Curious asks, I've watched your videos and I've noticed that you always try to use humor to make history fun and fascinating to learn. My question would be, how do you do that? That's an interesting question because you asked, how do I do that? And the answer to that question is, that's just who I am. I mean, if you attended my classes in person, you would see that I'm always cracking jokes, and that's just my personality. So I'm trying to teach in a manner that is congruent with who I am. I think if I tried to be funny or tried to inject humor and I wasn't naturally that way, then it would come off as ingenuous. So I say just be who you are. Insignia asks, what makes you do all this? The truth is, this whole YouTube thing is sort of the convergence of so many things in my life. In high school, I was a drama kid. I was in a lot of plays, so I got this sense of acting and performing. And then for a long stretch of time, I was a preacher, so I learned the intricacies of communication and how to say things to people in the way that they would understand. Then I became a high school teacher, and I was just scrambling to try to figure out how to do this whole thing. So all of that came together, and one day I made a video, and here we are. Felicia Pittman asks, what advice can you give to first-year AP teachers. I mean, I remember my first year as an AP teacher, which also happened to be the first year that I was a teacher at all, and it was pretty rough. When I look back at my own teaching career, I noticed something that's both unavoidable and something that I hate, which is that students have to be the casualty of my learning how to do this. So my advice for first-year teachers is just get through it. Do the best you possibly can. Know that everybody struggles with it. You're not alone in that. It's just really hard, and if you can survive 1 year, and really it's survival that first year, next year you're gonna feel a lot better. The Madman 731 asks, are you a world history teacher? If so, do you show these videos to your students? Also, can I transfer to your class? Sure, you can transfer to my class. No problem, I got a spot for you. But yes, I am a world history teacher, and I've showed a video of mine in my class precisely one time, and that like 9 minutes was some of the most uncomfortable minutes of my life because, you know, I'm up there trying to crack jokes and all stuff in the videos, and it's like, and then I'm also in the back of the room watching it with them, and I was like, that's it, nope, can't do it anymore. Ella S asks, have you taught any classes besides AP World History? Yes. I teach at a very small school, so we teachers have to wear a lot of hats. Over the years, I have taught the following: AP World History, AP US History, AP European History, AP Government, AP Macroeconomics. I've taught on-level World History, US History, Economics, Government. I've also taught debate, public speaking. I've taught Bible. I've taught Latin 1. I've taught Latin 2. It's ridiculous. Trin asks, any advice for high schoolers wanting to study history in college? Yeah. Gird thyself. A lot of history programs around the country are really struggling, and that's because as a culture, we're valuing history less and less as a discipline that people ought to spend their lives on. But I would say, if that ambition is in you, you absolutely should follow it. We need you. Let There Be Night asks, what is your favorite Star Wars movie and why is it Empire Strikes Back? Pushing me into a corner here. I mean, I admit Empire Strikes Back is pretty great, but for my money, it can't get any better than A New Hope. I mean, come on, it's the first installment, the first time your eyes are open to this brand new world. I mean, oh, good, evil, blowing stuff up. I mean, come on. You can't get better than that. Sarah Huds asks, I've been with you since 62 subscribers. Nice. How long does it take you to film your videos? Well, from research to filming to editing, usually about 6 to 8 hours per video. Favorite Disney park? Magic Kingdom. What video did you have the most fun making? My favorite video is one that gets no traffic whatsoever because it's not what people are actually looking for on this channel, but I made a video about why people love Disney parks. And to me, I love watching that one. Marlena Ruddy asks, favorite brand of pen? I didn't know there was another pen besides the Pilot G2. And now I've got 3 questions that I'm gonna sort of bunch together because it's former students asking me which person in their family that I've taught, because I teach lots of siblings, which of them is my favorite. I've got Tim Kneedler, who's your favorite Kneedler? Laney Allen, who's your favorite Allen? And Gabriel Lovell, who's your favorite Lovell? My response is the same to all 3, so take a second, search your heart. Who do you think is my favorite? Yeah, you know who it is. You know who my favorite is. DJ Rose asks, what beard product do you use? In the words of the Queen Bee, I woke up like this. Sam Fletcher asks, if you could write one new law that everybody had to obey, what law would you create? People who are on tubes in rivers are not allowed to float through the hole that I'm fishing in at that moment. Makes me so mad. And since we're talking about it, that will be punishable by death. I got a couple people asking me to give a hot take on what's going on with the impeachment of Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And I love you guys, but I'm not gonna talk about that in a celebration video. You don't go to Thanksgiving dinner and sit down and go, let's talk about Donald Trump. I do have some thoughts, but not here. Adorable Triceratops asks, what got you into Latin? I mentioned earlier that I teach Latin, and here's what got me into it. About 8 years ago, the headmaster at the school where I teach came up to me and said, hey, the Latin teacher's leaving. Do you want to teach Latin? And I said, what makes you think I know Latin? He said, do you? And I said, no. And he said, do you want to teach it? Yeah. So I taught myself Latin, and I already had a background in Greek and Hebrew, so it was a little easier, but that's how I got into Latin. Alright, Banana Case 16 asks me a whole laundry list of questions, so we're gonna do it lightning fast. What's your favorite history? It's always been US, but world is starting to grow on me. How many gummy bears have you eaten in one sitting? How many gummy bears have you eaten in one sitting? Who's your favorite Marvel character? Well, hold on. This stack of vintage Wolverine comics should tell you the answer. Do you like Stranger Things? Of course, I grew up in the 80s. Like, they hit that nostalgia button so hard, I had no choice. What is your favorite controversial history topic to discuss? Southern slavery. Who do you think killed Kennedy? Hugh Jackman. Who do you think wrote Shakespeare's plays and works? Hugh Jackman. Is there any candy that you would grab before gummy bears? Well, if I'm in the right mood, Chewy Spree. And final question, Kenny Vanderpool, what is the most drastic thing you would do for a bag of gummy bears? Man, I don't like thinking about all the bad things I've done to get gummy bears, all the time I spent in the clink, but I could show you my tattoos to prove it. That one took about 12 hours. Okay, that's enough questions for now. Thank you to everyone who submitted a question. The last thing I'll say is this. Thank you. I started making these videos 3 years ago, not because I expected any of this to happen, but because I was trying to put online courses together for AP History, and I just needed a place to store the videos. And all of a sudden, people started subscribing. It took me totally by surprise. I still remember getting to 100 subscribers. It was such a big deal to me that one of my students actually made me a 100 subscriber cake. And then 1,000 subscribers came along, and I was like, maybe there's something to this. And now here we are at 10,000, and this number actually doesn't mean as much to me as I thought it would. What really means something to me is that we've created a little community here, and reading your comments that these videos have been really helpful to you in your AP history classes. Like, that's what matters to me, because that's what all this is for, to help you get an A in your class and a 5 on your exam. So stay tuned and keep helping each other down in the comments. I'll see you around.